Hi and hello and welcome to episode 32 of Going Over. I, of course, am Fred Slow alongside me, Sally Taylor. We're talking the world of pro wrestling as it relates to the Southwest, the entirety of these great United States of America. Now Canada, if you count Money in the Bank. Also, a bunch of time was just spent overseas with WWE and everything else that's the world of pro wrestling. Sally, how are you, brother?
I'm moving. I'm grooving. I'm grateful. We are cruising. As you can see, I have a different background. I'm now in my new place,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
yeah, man, I'm grateful, man. How about you? How you doing? How you feeling, Fred?
I tell you, I never complain. I'm so very fortunate in every aspect of my life, existence, in the world. So that is a
Beautiful.
positive for me. Of course, I am the last professional promoter in the world of pro wrestling. We've been over this a bunch of times. And we had a big promotion this past weekend down in El Paso at the Amador Live as we
Las
helped the city of El
Cruces.
Paso bring in Cinco de Mayo. And it was the return of Sale Taylor to the world of pro wrestling as he uncannon performed for the first. How long had it been since you had performed in a ring?
20 years.
Isn't that crazy?
20 years, man. It's insane. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really good. Also, Las Cruces was like the very first town I lived in when I first moved to New Mexico. I went to
Yep.
New Mexico State, so it's a bucket list of mine to work. However, I'm working in all the cities that I've lived in, all the towns I've lived in. So it's a big deal to me. I'm grateful.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and big thank you to the Amador Live and all the people who came out in attendance. It was as cool of a looking show as I had ever seen. It was the way we had it set up. We hadn't done outdoors yet with Duke City Championship Wrestling, which, by the way, full disclosure, I am a co-owner of Duke City Championship Wrestling. If you support Duke City Championship Wrestling, you support me. You put money into my pocket, but my pockets are real slim right now because it's all just going back into the promotion. But it was, it was as cool of a thing as I had ever seen in person at an outdoor like independent event. You know, we had the ring set up and there's this beautiful backdrop of a stage and the most impressive like concert level like audio and lights that you could have over a ring. Really cool back of the house, really cool setup. What was your opinion on, and if you haven't seen any of it, go to Duke City Championship Wrestling social media. It's there. What was your opinion, Sally, on the venue and the Amador Live?
The Amador Live actually looked really dope. It's something that Las Cruces needs. It's a small town. For those who don't know, it's the third largest town in New Mexico, and it's tiny.
Yeah,
Like when you're on the 25 driving through it, you are
three exits, I
five,
think. It's
three
yeah,
exits, 5 minutes. You're through
yeah.
it. But it felt good to be back there. Las Cruces needs places like that. The Amador Live. It looks like they could provide a really great service, and I'm excited to see who else will be playing there because, like, literally, the sounds that they had hooked up there, and the lights they had looked amazing, sounded amazing.
It was something cool.
I'm really grateful for them. The staff at Amador Live as well, top notch.
Yeah,
Really great, really great people. So
yeah.
it
Thank you
was
to
awesome. Cool.
all those individuals down there that helped us make this thing happen. Specifically, our performers in hand. You know, and we do these live shows around the state. We've done one in Clovis, now Las Cruces, and we have our eyes on a couple different places. And the idea is, can we take the product that we do monthly at the Historic El Rey Theater, and then can we translate it, elsewhere? And we have lightning in a bottle here in Albuquerque. Duke City Championship Wrestling at the El Rey, which pulls its whatever hundreds of people a show. It
Yeah.
is really incredible to me the loyalty of those individuals that are coming to support. And are they pro wrestling fans? Yeah, they are. And were they originally? Not necessarily. They're people who came out, gave it a shot, and hopefully fell in love with it, and that's why they're returning. And if it's not the wrestling in the ring proper, if it's everything that surrounds it, the spectacle that surrounds it, I'm into that too. But they are here, and it's interesting to see like Hobo Hank come out, to Mr. Bojangles, and Hobo Hank doesn't receive, the 400-500
Yeah.
people standing sing along deal that he gets here in the El Rey. He gets a, he's a face, he's a good guy, but he doesn't get that. He just gets so his character is that he's homeless. That's his deal. Like, yes, Las Cruces, that is his deal. That's 100% his thing.
It's it's a challenge. I can't say this enough. One, we've established ourselves enough here in Albuquerque, just like you said. We have a bunch of loyal fans that just continue to show up and show out. I cannot thank y'all enough. And for those of you in Alex will continue to support us on the road, man, love y'all for real. So going on the road, and especially on a new market, is considered a new market. But they didn't know. They didn't care. So everyone's battling uphill
Yeah.
to try to get reactions, to try and give everyone a reason to care. And I am grateful that every single person that showed up to work showed out and got the reactions that they needed. Were able
Yeah.
to show people. It was weird though, like not hearing the Hobo Hank pop for, but at the end, he had he had the crowd.
Yeah, I
He had
agree.
the
Well,
crowd.
and, we're talking visually about what it was, and it was really impressive. And the stories we were telling, they're so fun because they're like one-offish, right?
Yeah,
They're like a standalone thing. They're not part of the canon of wrestling at the El Rey. They're just a lot of fun. And a lot of our guys, so we brought down a lot of performers from Albuquerque. They end up pulling double duty, so they do, they perform and then they perform again, like, but with a mask, or, they perform, later in the night, like elsewhere on the card, they're a manager now, or they're doing whatever. And we have referees that we've never had before. So we're using brand new referees. We have like all of this fun. Ed, and by the way, Big Ed, like Big Ed won't listen
good.
to the show, but he runs like all the sports visitor stuff down with the city of Las Cruces. Former pro wrestler, has been doing it forever. Been in the ring with Thunder and Hobo Hank for 20 something years. To come out and referee for us is a really special thing. And Johnny Manga, who made his debut with us last month at the Historic El Rey, come down and referee and learn some different parts of the business. All that stuff is just so incredible to me. So anyways, these guys come out and there's no rules, there's no storyline, there's no how we're doing it, and it's just laughter, man. It is the most fun that you can have in the world of pro wrestling without consequence. It's um it was awesome. I don't know what other verbiage to use.
That's one of the biggest positives of having to pull a house show. Any promotion, you ask them when they're doing the house show, when there's no taping, when there's no cameras,
Yeah.
that's when everyone gets to just relax and just try new things or just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I loved every single minute of this because everyone was like, okay, we're gonna put this together and we're gonna have some fun, and we're just gonna put on a show.
Yeah, and see what sticks, and
Yeah.
So a big thing that involved Fonzie LaFleur. So we just bought this new ring, right? And one of our feature guys been in every episode of Duke City Championship Wrestling, Fonzie LaFleur. So Fonzie is a ring whisperer. I don't know what other words to use. like when it comes to building a ring, there's not a guy I trust more than Fonzie. And so we had this brand new ring. We're putting it up outside for the first time. And I've never really been a part of the outdoor construction of a ring, right? Like I'm not there professionally. I've done it a bunch at the El Rey, but I don't know anything about this. So we get outside and we're like trying to level it. And it's relatively level ground, but you get the idea. And we're trying to set this thing up. And like Fonzie's like talking to the turnbuckles and stuff when he's like doing them. He's like, hey, you're gonna do good today. Like we're gonna treat each other well. And I'm like the ring whisperer. Like this is like forget the Fonzie gimmick. Be the ring whisperer. Like somebody like takes a hard bump on the ring, he should come out and like caress it and comfort it and tell the ring it's okay. Like just it was so funny to me, man. And it's like I don't know, we had a 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock start, 5 o'clock doors, but we must have got to the venue around 10, I guess, right? So we start setting up, and it's like right away, like you get there at 10 a.m. and you work until 10 p.m. Like it is like a full day of pro wrestling is a full day of pro wrestling.
It was really cool seeing because I got there around 2 or 3 actually, and seeing you in the mix, building the ring up, and like you just like being connected with the ring too, seeing you in there, that was awesome. Like just showing that you're one of the boys, you're able to get down dirty and stuff.
Well, and but I don't know how much of the boys I am, but I do know that like I don't struggle with a lot of stuff. I'm so fortunate professionally. So if you're like, hey, if anyone's like, what's the best approach to a thing? I'm like, well, I think, A, B, or C. And if you have a ton of expertise, if you're Fonzie, if you're Hobo Hank, if you're these guys and you're like, hey, Fred, the success to setting up a pro wrestling ring is this. Well, I go, yes, it is. Like you've been in the game a long time. Like I super trust. But if it's like, hey, Freddie, tell us how Nielsen ratings work or whatever. Like, yeah, I can do that. Like I got you. I know exactly how that works. But yeah, it was, I don't know. It was kind of, neat to see how the whole day kind of evolved. And then when the guys go from, helping create the ambiance and the entertainment to transitioning into gimmick, to transitioning into character. You were part of that because, like you said, you got there around 2, 3 in the afternoon. What was the back of the house like? Did it feel different than a regular show? Like, what was that from your perspective?
Well, I was initially brought in because, well, one, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had
You
the
were just showing
minimum.
up.
I had the minimum idea that I'm gonna be a manager, come in, have some
Yeah,
fun. But then I got the notice like, hey, by the way, you're gonna work tonight. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, okay. So everything was kind of a blur.
yeah,
Just me trying to punch in, me trying to focus in, but being present enough to ask for advice. I have so many years of experience of everyone who's from the old school even to the current school, so I had them all right there. So I shut my mouth and I was listening to everything that was going on, and I was asking a lot of questions. Hey, what do you
mhm,
think of this? How do you feel of that? And I'm grateful that every single one of them was just was able to like, oh yeah, no, I see what you're doing. I see what you're trying to do. Blah 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 blah. And the but it was nerves, and then I had a moment, man. So I'm taking on the moniker of a couple names that are very near and dear, and I
I love
had
that
to make a.
I love that you're bringing this up because I was going to if you hadn't. So yeah, roll with this for sure.
Do you want to go into this after break, or do you got time?
Oh well, yeah, roll into it, and we'll jump back in after the break. But yeah, start this one off for sure.
So, my side of the bloodline, we're on an extended side, but I have two of my dad's brothers who worked in the Pacific Northwest, actually even in the South too. But very near and dear to my heart. I had to make calls, and I had to consult the Council of Cousins, and get
Yeah,
permission to use these names because one, I don't want to steal anyone's gimmick,
yeah,
especially if it belonged to my brothers, if it belonged to my cousins' fathers and stuff. Like, I wanted to make sure that I'm in good standing with them because more like this may go on and this may pass, but my family's my family, and I got to make sure I do right by them, especially if it's something this important. So I made a couple calls and like, hey man, this is happening. How do you feel about me running with this name? And um, the big one was the Polynesian Prince. That was my dad's brother Joe. That was
yeah,
his gimmick. And I was like, if it comes up, how do you feel about me running with it? Every single one of them had the heavy one because like that was Uncle Joe. The
yeah,
Polynesian Prince is Uncle Joe. It's synonymous with that. And I was like, or even so. Then also asked, what about the Samoa Nightmares, which was the other tag team that my Uncle Joe and my Uncle Fred had together, and they were precursor to what became the Samoan SWAT team, which was my Uncle Joe, Rikishi, who's now Rikishi, and Samu, and then Paul Heyman took him under, and then so I was asking the cousins again, like, hey man, how do y'all feel about that? And they were like, we rather have someone in the family run with the name.
yeah.
So that was the blessing in that. But the big one was like asking, like, hey, how do you feel about Polynesian Prince? And they're like, if you think you can do it, if you think you can run it. The way I see it in my family, I'm just a placeholder for for others. And there's so many others of my cousins, even my nephews and my nieces, who are ready to come up. And if they start training, they'll run with the names even better. But I'm just a placeholder to at least hold it in this generation for my family. But getting a bit of a blessing, getting a green light that I can use the Samoa Nightmare, and then a little bit of the Polynesian Prince, keep it in our family because that it's a huge deal, and I'm grateful to my family for that. So so when I got the green light, I had a moment where it was just like, okay, it's me.
Yeah.
And it was scary. I legit had like a little fright to it because it's a heavy, 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 heavy thing to carry around.
Well, and when you say that fright, is that the performance at hand? Is that like continuing the legacy, because like you said, you hadn't really bumped around in a ring in some 20 years. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you take bumps in Duke City Championship Wrestling and Sale Taylor as a storyline, but the Samoan Nightmare to get out there and hey, recognizing not a televised event, like if there's a way to reintroduce you to the thing, like this is the best way to do it. But what was that anxiety about it? Was it performance anxiety? Was it legacy anxiety? Was it just now it couldn't have been performance for you because you're in front of huge crowds all the time. Like you're a natural entertainer. It had to be 100% family based, even though they had already told you they support you.
Here's a fun thing, man. Before any and every gig, no matter how big and small, I get anxiety. I get anxious like crazy, crazy.
Oh, do
It's
you?
like no other. Before any and every gig, I just have to get that first beat going. But then adding the weight of the family, adding the weight of the legacy, and just hearing from my brothers, man, saying, go ahead, run it, and them saying, do it for the family, do it for the unks, because both of them, my Uncle Joe, my Uncle Fred, my Uncle Joe, the Polynesian Prince, my Uncle Fred, the Tasmanian Devil, they are no longer here.
Right.
So I had to all right, I wish that could have gotten their blessing when they were here, but no one in my family would have figured that I would have been the one running around the ring.
Let's do this. Let's continue down this storyline and this path a little bit when we get back from the break, because I think a lot of fans really interested in kind of everything that goes into, number one, a personality they enjoy, but the idea of going from one type of entertainment to the other. We've seen a lot of that storyline in the NBA and the NFL recently, with the idea that NBA guys think they can play football and football think they can play NBA and this and that and can professional entertainers in the world of music, art, and otherwise become professional wrestlers. Sale Taylor proved it, yes, over the weekend. It's going over right here on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to Going Over. I am Fred Slow, alongside me, Sale Taylor. And during the break, Sale from the chat, what happens if by chance the weather conditions don't work in your favor when doing an outdoor show? What do you do? That's in reference to the show we did in Las Cruces last weekend, Cinco de Slamo. We did down at the Amador Live. We had like a cover. We had a pavilion tent thing we could have put over the ring. It would have messed up the lights substantially. But buy insurance. That's the answer. Get Act of God insurance, because although I wasn't worried about rain in the desert of Las Cruces, you've been a part of a lot of music festivals, and weather is a huge factor with outdoor events.
Well, it's crazy because this past weekend I had a couple of friends that played here for the Gathering Nations, and then they had to go play in Vegas for a big island reggae music festival in Vegas. But they lost a day in on Saturday, and they were on the phone with the promoter talking about, I just lost $95,000.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
They like the kind of insurance he'll probably get like 30, 40 back. But all of the down payments for all of the other artists, which they can't get them back or whatnot, because it was it's a festival. So that's a lot of schedules to get together. But he was like, I don't know what to do. So get insurance coverage, get Act of God coverage, because they had a big old hailstorm randomly on one of those days, and they lost out a day. And so it's crazy.
I for a bunch of years ran a park and rec. It's not necessarily pro wrestling related, but Easter egg hunts and Halloween parades and little league games, and I could run all the things. I was an amateur weatherman to the most professional level for a bunch of years, and it is really difficult to coordinate the first time, and it's even more difficult to coordinate the second time. So that's my answer. And then also, I think the best everyone's ability, if you are doing this is my opinion, if you are doing a live event where weather could be a factor, immediately as soon as possible, reschedule that bad boy and promise all sold tickets good. That to me is a huge one, where you don't ever want anyone to feel like they're missing out. And then also, if you can, be real quick to refund. I know a lot of things will say, hey, weather is whatever this thing, but if there is a way to financially do it, I say do it. So that's my answer to that. We're talking a little bit about Sale Taylor making his debut over the weekend as the Samoan Nightmare. And we didn't record anything, but I recorded this. So I got it up on the live stream. So we didn't go over this before the show. You're okay with this being publicly consumed right here, Sale, or no?
Yeah, I'm with it, man. I'm with it.
Thank you. So Sale Taylor into the ring. Fernando Gonzalez, who's co-owner of Duke City Championship Wrestling, is our makeshift ring announcer for the event. And you see
Did an amazing job.
Yeah, but you can kind of see the setup here at the Amador Live. It was real good. This is just me on my iPhone. From there was like a little elevated perch thing. That's where I was. And you're going up against the Fireman here.
The Fireman, honestly, I think it's been 20 years since the Fireman has last been seen too.
I believe the last time we saw was like in the El Paso, Las Cruces area. So
yeah,
he's reviving the gimmick a little bit. Look at this floating camera. I'm not half bad, right? So
you did a really good job, man.
So you come out. It's the surfs up, pinky out, thumb out, like energy, and you're yeah. And you're getting ready to lock up with the hated Fireman, which, by the way, I love because I'm pretty oppo Fireman. I don't know if we've talked about this on radio before, but there's a moment before where you're talking about punching in, where you're cornered up. Kind of mentally talk about before your first lockup in front of fans in 20 something years.
So my thing, the steps, that was my first big concern. It was like, all right, don't roll your ankle when you get to the lawn. And then, all right, I made it down the lawn. All right, I'm making good. I walked up to the ring. It was just going on instinct. All right. So first off, when I was like working the match, they're like, "Hey man, let's give you a challenge, and you're going to be a babyface today. Let's see if you can get a reaction from the crowd and connect with the crowd." As y'all know, whoever's been showing up to our DCCW live events, I'm Team Heel, baby.
Yeah, everyone hates you.
They hate me, and I love it. And so I was like, "Oh, I have to not cuss at these kids when they're coming up to me." So it was really cool, but it was a great challenge because as you also know, I'm an actor as well. So I was going to punch in and to get in the mindset of like, all right, let's just find a connection. Let's remember how to make sure that we can. The biggest thing for me is just work safe.
Yeah,
and not reaching too far ahead of what I can do at this moment because I have a lot more, things that I cannot do at the moment. So before that first lockup, it was just, all right, you're a good guy. Don't cuss anyone out. And let's just feel this out. And on that first lockup, I just felt that, all right, you know what? We know how to do this,
Yeah, and not to fast forward too much, but obviously you get through the match and the night's continuing on. But I'm not broadcasting. I'm not part of the story that's being told that night. I'm just in attendance. I'm saying hi to fans. I'm introducing the product, and I'm trying to be, at least an approachable face of this organization. Yeah. But after the fact, after the match, you're behind the locker room. There's like this open outdoor back area, and I go and I find you. And I'm like, number one, I'm real proud of you. So I want to tell you that. Number one, I'm Sully, you did. I'm so impressed, like your growth over this thing, the time you growed it. And then number two, how does your body feel? That's
everything hurts.
Yeah, you and the Fireman beat each other up for like 10 minutes, right? So, and your nose telling me, you're like, no, I'm good. I'm 100% good. And you're like, you're doing the neck thing, you're doing the shoulder thing, you're doing all the things. And I'm like, well, hey, I recorded your match. You didn't know this yet. Like I didn't tell you I was going to. And I don't know if you were excited or disappointed that you had to see it. I don't know which one it was, but it was kind of a fun moment for you and I, not just as professionals, but as personally, we're pretty good friends. For me to be able to have been somewhat associated with what I identify in your life a really important day, both professionally.
He hit me with a chair just now, by the way. For those listening on the radio. We're playing the match right now. The Fireman threw me outside, and just hit me with a chair. He was having fun with me out there.
Yeah. Well, and the camera angle's not great here. So the sun, you were out during the hottest part of this whole thing. We started at 7, and I think your match went on like 7:20 maybe. So the sun is still super bright when you're out there. You can kind of see where the fans aren't fans in those seats where the sun are, but they're to the other side. What was that like being out there with the beating like desert sun on you after you're literally getting beat up with a chair?
That ring was hot.
Yeah.
That ring was so hot, and that lawn was hot. Everything was just hot. Las Cruces sun is different sun than Albuquerque sun.
Oh,
That sun's hot.
It hits super different.
And right now he's giving me a camel clutch, and I'm like pretty much belly down on the mat on the ring, and it's hot. It's just hot.
The fireman or the firefighter or whatever his name is, I don't know a ton about, but every like dastardly heel move in the history of pro wrestling, like those are his moves. Like he had no interest in like a legitimate wrestling match with you. And as I'm watching, and there's no audio here because it'd be bad for the radio, but I'm just giggling the whole time. Like the whole time I'm watching this thing, just watching you get whooped on, my man.
He gave me a good whooping for a while, actually.
Yeah.
It hurt. Yeah, I tried to no sell you after, but you can see beyond it. You're like, yeah, hey, by the way, here's the video. But I'm like, yeah, man, I'm trying not to cry in front of you. That's why I went to have my own. I went to have my own space away from everyone else, and then you come walking back. It's like, okay, don't cry yet.
Yeah. Was so like that exertion you're talking about, was it more physical, was it more emotional, was it more mental? Like after you finished, what was the biggest drain on Sale Taylor the person?
Everything, man.
Yeah.
It's so as an actor, even for myself, my preference, I don't like to watch myself. So when he came to me saying, "Oh, by the way, here's the video," I'm like, "Oh, I gotta watch this now. I have to watch this." But the end of the match, just everything hurt, and I was tired, but I had a moment of clarity of, this is exactly what I need, where I needed to be with who I needed to be with, doing exactly what I needed to be doing. So it was one of those like, yeah, you're here. This is where you need to be. And so I was grateful for that, because I get those when I'm on stage. I'm like right before the first downbeat as the band plays, or when I'm on set and right before they call for action. Like I get one of those moment of clarities, I call it, where you're doing what you need to be doing.
I had so obviously I'm in front of a lot of people too, and I've had a similar moment to what you're describing. But I only had it when I was very young. So I played basketball for a lot of years. You know how tall I am. And I would only get that thing. I would like throw up if I was doing the tip, if I was doing the jump ball, I would lose my stuff. Now, if I was for any reason on the bench, or if I was just, like on the, like lined up for it, I was perfectly fine. But if I was doing the jump ball, my stomach was in knots when I was younger. And I haven't been able to recreate. And I think it was just because I knew all the eyes were on me for a second. It was like the one-on-one, you're either going to win against a guy or you're going to lose against a guy kind of thing. But I haven't had that elsewise.
It's would you feel more of the pressure, more of the weight of the moment on you? And if you're able to step out and be like, all right, this is happening, right before you tip off, and like, all right, Fred, you're on it. You feel that moment. This is one of those things where like, all right, this is the perfect time for me to actually have a tune-up match, and see where I'm at physically, emotionally, mentally, and like have some fun. And for lack of a better way of putting it, the stakes were pretty low on this.
Yeah.
So like there's grace here. If I were to do this match in the beautiful, magical El Rey Theater, that
might be a different expectation, different stipulation.
But I'm grateful that I got to do some more work in one of my old towns that I've lived in, and the more importantly, I'm all about earning a spot in whether it's in the locker room or earning a spot on stage with whoever I'm playing with, you know,
Sure.
I'd like to hope that all right, I've earned a spot in a locker room where I can, you know, come in and say, you guys, hey, Sally's here, is ready to work.
Yeah.
You know, let's put him in the mix. And
Well,
if I'm not ready, then cool. You know.
Well, yeah, and I think that's such a good perspective because obviously you're in a management role in a lot of parts of your life, and you're in a performance role in a lot of parts of your life, and the world of pro wrestling is like a blend of those two things, right? To where it's, there you have say kind of what happens, and you have say in how stories are delivered, and you have a lot of say, and I think in the world of acting it'd be called improv, and you have a lot of that. And it's so incredible. And what you're talking about, earning it, let's talk about that whenever we get back, Sully, because I do think there are different viewpoints on how guys, quote unquote, earn it in the industry. And we're not going to just talk about performers in the ring. We're going to talk about everyone who surrounds it. It's Going Over right here on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to Going Over. I am Fred Slow. I'm joined by Sully Taylor, who was back in the pro wrestling for the first time in 20-something years. It's crazy how old we are, brother.
Yeah, man. I'm reminded every day, man.
It's so
but it's
wild.
Crazy, man. I feel older than what you are. So you're doing great, bro. You're doing great.
Well, I just had this talk with my lady the other day. I'm 39, right? And 30, this is the oldest I've ever been. And my work, obviously we host this show here on KNML, which is a CBS Sports affiliate. But I host a daily talk show too, 2 Men On. You can hear Monday through Friday, 4 to 7. So my boss says to me, "Hey, Freddie, we're trying to get the summer schedule figured out. You taking a vacation?" And I go, "Yeah, and I'm like looking at the bank account, and I'm like looking at the wrestling schedule, and I'm looking at all the things. I'm like, it might be a little tight, to time wise, finance wise, all the things. It might be, this might not be it." And I had this and this is the talking to my lady part. I had this idea in all of my 30s that I was going to go to all 50 states. And, and whenever I set that idea when I was 30, that was a really realistic idea. I had 10 years to do it. and now I'm 39, you know what I mean? And I got one left. I got to go to Alaska. I've been to 49 states. I got one left, Salt Lake. And I'm like, if I don't go this summer, you're not going to Alaska during the winter. So I'm looking at the final 3 months of my possibility to go. And I'm going, I'm old. I'm like, this is me being old. So I say to my lady, I go, what's important? Is it important that I hit this bucket list thing? Or is that not an important thing in my many years? Do I need to, can we push this off till next summer? And with that, and she's she's the most support I've ever had in my life from another human being. And in all the ways that you define powerful, she is that. And she says to me, we'll go to Alaska. I'm so, oh, okay. Like that seems resolved. Like I guess we'll figure it out. But yeah, if I was 38, it wouldn't be a little crisis because I'd have one more. But I guess I've said that 8 times already. So here we are.
Well, you know what's cool? My family, we're having a family reunion in Alaska in July. Do you want to just go for me and you'll be Saleh and eat up all the Samoan food? Do you want to do that?
That'll work. I'll go up there and be the Samoan whitewear. And then they'll be like, "Oh, this guy tracks." Stop. They'll be like, "Stop saying oos. That's for us. That's our word."
No, I'll just tell them Fred Saleh. Treat Fred as Saleh, and you'll be good.
I'll do the Jacob Fatu. I'll be like, "Hey guys, it's me, Fred. Hello." Like,
hello.
Yeah, don't you guys know I'm part of the line? Hello. Like,
oh yeah, tracks. Yeah, one of us. You're gonna hear everyone say that.
They'll ask me to do something culturally sensitive to like PIs, and they'll be like, "Hey, something Pigro, something Haku, something." And I'll be like, "Oh yeah."
Like, thank you for the food. I just like thank you for the food.
The internet says Jacob Fatu is about to make his like main roster debut, and he's going to be like a big part of a storyline with War Games at Survivor Series. And like,
So here's
isn't that crazy? That's crazy.
I don't like reporting on rumblings, but this like caught my attention.
You saw
Apparently,
this too.
yeah, right. So
Yeah.
Apparently, people from creative are afraid that Jacob might cast too big a spotlight or cast too big a shadow over Solo, which I got to tell you, Cepha, Solo,
Yeah,
is an introvert. He doesn't like talking.
no,
He doesn't like talking. And for those who've met Jacob, he doesn't mind talking. He doesn't mind talking.
I think I
such
told
a
you
big
story.
personality.
He and I, Jacob Fatu, who's wrestled for Duke State Championship Wrestling, who is shoot part of your family. He and I are in Florida at the Royal Rumble, and we're having libation. We're having libation, and yeah, and this like fan comes up and is like, "Hey man, like I'm about to propose to my girlfriend. Like, will you spray us with champagne?" And Jacob Fatu's like, "Hello." Like, yeah, like, they're like, "Fred, hold a camera." I'm like, "Why? I'm not part of this." Like,
yes, you are.
Weirdest thing in my life. Well, and so I bring up Jacob because you brought up yourself earlier, right? So we were talking about earning the spot, right? So if there, and everyone's got different paths to where they get professionally. Let's be very transparent on that. Ronda Rousey is as good as a female pro wrestler as I've ever seen. She didn't grow up on the indies. She didn't grow up in the power plant. She didn't grow up at the WWE Performance Center. Yeah. Charlotte Flair is as good as a pro wrestler as I've ever seen. Pedigree, Performance Center, professional. Like you end up in the same place with different paths. With that said, there's writers, there's ownership in TKO, there's WWE brass that says Jacob Fatu is ready for TV. Let's go. Now, does the locker room have that same reaction? Does the locker room immediately think, yeah, Jacob Fatu can be here? Also, does that matter? Does that matter to WWE brass? I don't know what other verbiage to use here, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or is it vice versa? Is the locker room saying, hey, that Jacob Fatu cat, he'll be way better in this role that Solo's already running? And brass is like, hasn't proved it to us. You know, like from your viewpoint, Saleh, is it one, is it the other, or is it both that's most vital to like an in-ring performer?
So with something like DCCW and WWE AEW, you will have the key 5-7 in your locker room.
That's most of our locker room.
Which is most of it.
But it's not the biggest roster of all time.
It's not. But like our guys can run it. To reveal a little bit behind, you know, there's politics involved in general. There is your performance with any promoter on how that affects your ability to be booked on another gig or not, but it's also your performance within the locker room and you're standing within that, and that pertains to whether they will accept you or not. You know, it doesn't matter if you're the most bookable person.
About the locker room.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm talking about in the back. For me, I've always, as a musician, I like to think of myself as a musician's musician, even though I'm not that good a musician. You know, I like to think of myself an actor's actor, even though I'm not that good an actor. But like I'm constantly working at it, and I like to think that I'm growing at it. And I want those in the locker room, any locker room I'm sharing, for them to know that, you know, this is a big part of my life, my upbringing, and like I take it serious. I want to be known as a safe worker, so that I could walk into any locker room, they tell me what I need to do, and I do it well, and I do it safely, so I can shake someone's hand before and shake that person's hand right after, and then, you know, I want to earn that. I know I'm playing a lot of catch up in this because I'm like taking quite a sabbatical in this, but like it's always been part of my life. I've always been watching, but at the same time, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. It was told to me by one of my uncles, and I'll say it again. I am still nobody who's done nothing but take from. So the only thing or the best thing that I can do is just give back.
Yeah, it's a good verbiage.
And that's where I'm at. So if I'm in the locker room and they want me to change outside, I don't care if that means that we can make the show and do it well. Cool. I'll be outside. You
Yeah,
know.
well, and for the radio listener, maybe the layman, the change outside is a reference to the idea that you're not part of the locker room yet. It's that
Yeah.
idea where you're not in yet. And my exposure, similar to your exposure, lifetime you've had in the world of pro wrestling, the 20 years I've had in the world of radio, I think it's very different. In radio, and I'll just give you an example. If my boss is to say, "Hey, we want the morning show at this sports talk station to read the box scores, and we want them to recap last night. We want them to recap the finish. We want them to recap the big moments, and we want them to do that while do as many sponsor reads as possible." That's the format.
Yeah.
Me, a performer on the afternoon drive show right now, this is legitimate. That's not my formula. My formula is the worst type of radio, which is all opinion. I'm kidding on that, but you get the point. So where if you're going to have one set of performers, maybe a better example would be conservative talk, but you're kind of following my lead here. If you got one guy doing it a certain way, and then let's say like the midday show is like all interviews, right? Like you're going to be able to get like collegiate coaches between practices. You're going to be able to get athletes before the game starts. You're going to be able to get community members or venue owners, or I could fill in the blanks, like heavy, like interview based program. And then, maybe early afternoon is like, hey, we need you guys to take calls. You know what I mean? This is the sports fan who loves sports talk radio. They're listening right now and they're going to call right now and you're going to let them through and you're going to talk to them. And then, hey, Fred and Van of 2 Men On, no one's listening to you. Everyone's watching the game. You have a very select audience that's seeking you out. Be yourself. And these are all like drastically different approaches to the exact same product spread out through the course of a day, right? And I don't think I, as a performer, can tell you what is best for your product. That's me, because I'm in a performer role there. And it gets real interesting to me, like now, because I'm on the flip side, right? Because I'm the, hey, we need 5 really good face characters. We need 5 really good heel characters. And we need them to mix in this order. And by the way, we have to do the all fast MVD match where we have a 5-minute time limit, and we're doing the Duke City Toys gimmick match where 2 of our performers are beating each other up with birthday gifts. We have to have all these things. And it's so interesting to me because which I play both roles, I don't know what is the best approach to any of it. I don't know how you tell anyone what success is without them telling you their journey to getting there.
My approach when I'm working with other musicians,
sure,
because we all have very, very various ways of learning and communicating. When I'm like a music director in a band, I had to learn how can I best communicate with you? How can I best find you where you're at? Learn your language even, and then work to your strengths from there.
Yeah.
Because pretty soon, like I'm pretty sure like within the first show, you could tell with our roster, all right, this is what they're good at, this is what they're not good at, blah, 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 blah. So our job as whenever we're in a position of leadership, highlight the good stuff and then give them time to work on things that need to be worked on. And that's what it is that we have to do and exemplify as leaders, as performers. We just showed my first match, right?
Yeah, you're making a really good point. And obviously my radio world is adjacent to the world of comedy, right? So
yes.
A thing that I learned years ago in the world of comedy, which I'm fortunate to have found some success in, is like take your personality, take your persona and turn the volume up on it, but just do it in front of lights and then do it in front of a microphone. You're not trying to be 2 people. You're not trying to be the joke writer and you're not trying to be the performer. You're trying to be a combination of both. And it's hard. It's hard to be constantly entertaining. And what you have to do is, like, in my opinion, you have to trust your gut. You have to, and maybe if you're a religious individual, maybe go with what God gave you. And if you're me, go with what you think works. And I think if you get to the point where you're in a management role or a performance role in any industry, where you're not going with your gut, first of all, and you're trying to like curtail a product for others, I think that's when you're in trouble. I think that is the point where you end up failing. And I also think that curtail for others, that applies to how other people perform. Like I cannot tell the afternoon take calls show, which is a fabricated show, it's not real. But I can't tell that show the best way to run their product because I've never been the take calls show. And I would hope a roster and I would hope a management group would very much understand that there's just so many different avenues to success. And unfortunately, you can't take all roads at the same time. So you have to really end up committing to one as a whole. And I think it's a negotiation to get to which one you get to. Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it where, sometimes rosters win out, sometimes management wins out, sometimes everyone loses when no one can win out. And it's kind of a turbulent time if that struggle is real.
That's ultimately the risk, man. And unfortunately, you opened up that you are part of the owners group. You're the one with whose money and time is at stake. And so you have to put together a roster or a team of people that you trust enough to be like, I hope that I could trust you to put on as great a show as possible, that we can keep doing this.
Yeah, well, and that part's very real too, as it directly relates to like the Duke City Championship Wrestling product. But like, let's say I'll use like Fonzie as an example, right? Fonzie has put more time and more of his own, not just like financial investment, but work and effort and all those things that you measure into the world of pro wrestling over his pro wrestling career than I have put even close into Duke City Championship Wrestling. And because I wasn't witness to that at the time, it's not that I don't know it exists. It's not that I don't know it's valuable. I absolutely do. And I think that's where you get into a real interesting conversation. Like, has Jacob Fatu for the WWE level, does all of his experience with MLG or not MLG, MLW, sorry. MLG is the governor. With MLW, Duke City Championship Wrestling, GCW, does all of that, like, is it number one? Is it a 1-for-1 translation to WWE? And then if it's not, what is that percent? Does the roster see it as valuable? Does the management see it at the same level of value? Does Jacob Fatu see it as the same level of value? You end up in this really interesting convalescence of approaches where you hope when these three rivers come together, they come out in just like one uniform, really powerful one.
So I just realized Jacob Fatu is the first real signing of the new era Triple H.
Yeah, him or Tama.
Tama Tonga too, yeah. And like, so we got even Tangaloa. Like, we got three polys that's like part of the new signing of the new era, who has massively different styles from what is WWE. But Tama Tonga had fun. It looked like he had fun at the Backlash. That was exactly the kind of match that he needs anyways, like a fight, which was it was a fun show.
Yeah, he did very well.
France showed out. I think my concern right now is all the things that Jacob does and is capable of doing, they're going to take away like 40% of his repertoire because it's not considered WWE styles. WWE.
I would agree completely with that. Yeah.
But like, I know my guy, man. He'll make it work. And the boy oozes charisma. The boy oozes the riz. And he's gonna show up. Whatever. I think that's what's been the biggest, also like the biggest reason why we haven't seen him yet, because he has to rework and break a lot of habits that he's been working with all these years and learn the WWE way. Well, I'm excited to see what happens, man.
Yeah, same. And you said he oozes it. I'm going to tell you, he oozes it. Saleh Taylor, we had another excellent episode of Going Over. Final words, brother?
I love and appreciate y'all. I'm happy that I'm able to walk mostly still. I let's see where else this takes me. I'm just here to serve, man, and I'm grateful for all of our fans. For those who came out to Las Cruces from Albuquerque, I appreciate you. For those in Las Cruces who's waiting for us to come back, I appreciate you.
For Saleh Taylor, for myself, Fred Slow. Good job, everyone. GG.